So this morning's talk is about the importance of moral intelligence. It's a talk about our spiritual zone. It's the ultimate success and perfection that is possible in every one of us. It's the God potential in us all. Now that God potential is in us all, whether we manifest it or whether we don't. It's there. And so we have to acknowledge that truth and to know that is true for each and every human being. That God, that spiritual zone, is available to our full expression. And here's the important thing to remember. It's now. It doesn't have anything to do with our past, our education, or our success. It's a gift from within, given to us by our Creator. The universe, God, the Creator, whatever you choose to call our Creator, set this universe up on our behalf. It works on our behalf. And as you all know, when we talk about this every week, it works on our behalf through the quantum field. But it's important to remember that the universe is not an uncaring, random expression of biological processes, but rather a living, breathing reflection of love for all living things. We see how this universe loves all living things and prospers and nurtures all living things. And we are a part of that. We are a part of that to whatever extent our mind is aligned with love. This universe is created in love. And so we are to align with this universe in love. When you do, you will receive divine compensation for any lack in your material experience. Let me say that again. To whatever extent your mind is aligned with love, you will receive divine compensation for any lack in your material substance. It won't come from where you think it might, but you can rest assured that your material world will benefit when you are living in this world and aligning it with your love. And remember, we talk about this all the time on Sunday morning. Our interaction with this spiritual world is governed by our thoughts. It's not what we think. It's our thinking. It's the power we've been given. The facts are, from spiritual substance will come material manifestation. From spiritual substance will come material manifestation. This is not theory. This is the law. And it's the law by which the universe operates. We're born to be moral. It's our true nature. Yet fear and influence of others when we're young can make us forget who we truly are and who we were truly born to be. So when we talk about moral intelligence, I like to talk to you about words. And so the word moral means to be honest, to be decent, to be ethical, to be honorable. And developing our moral behavior within ourselves requires us to remember who we are and whose we are. We are perfect children of a loving God, of a loving God. That's whose we are. So we have to remember who we are, who we were created to be, and whose we are. It requires us to remember what Jesus taught us. And Jesus taught us that to live our life, the most important commandment He was challenged that by a lawyer, and he said, what is the greatest commandment? Because he was trying to trip Jesus up. He didn't think Jesus knew what he was doing. And Jesus said, the most important commandment is to treat each other the way we want to be treated. To treat each other the way we want to be treated. It's called in every religion, major and minor religion, and even the indigenous people, it was all in one form or another called the Golden Rule. So if you can just do that one thing and live by the Golden Rule, your life will be amazing. It's that simple, isn't it? And that complicated. It's so simple to say that we're going to live by that Golden Rule, to make sure and remind ourselves from moment to moment to treat each other the way we would want them to treat us. But when we do, that's one simple thing that we can remind ourselves of makes everything else in our world right. Makes it right. Automatically makes it right, because it has put you in that high vibration of that quantum field. There aren't any complications in our lives when we just ask that one question. When we're interacting with others, remember, ask yourself, am I interacting with this person in the same way I would want them to interact with me? And remember this, guys, we're always interacting with somebody, aren't we? Our spouse, our child, our neighbor, a stranger. We're always engaged in relationship. The word relate means I'm not just here automatically, autocratically. I am relating. We're relating to one another at all times. How are we doing that? Always checking in with yourself. How am I relating? Whether it's the lady who's checking out your groceries at the grocery store, or whether it's your relatives, your wife, your husband, your children. We could get in a real practice of this, because we think how many times a day we relate to different people. And if we could just remember every time we do to ask ourselves that question, pretty soon it would be pretty ingrained in us. But you know, children know this. Watch little children. We've got beautiful little children back there today. They're a good example. But little children know this. They're born with this. Watch them play. They love each other. They hug each other. They fuss with each other. But 2 minutes after they fuss with each other, they love each other again. They love their parents. Even parents who treat children horribly, those children still love those parents. Our children are our teachers. Jesus said, be as a little child. Children know that they are loved. They know they're born in love. And the only thing that takes them out of that is the influence of an adult that takes them away. This happens to us all. Takes us away from who we were created to be. We are created to be love, and that's who we are, is love. And as I keep telling you, we're the microcosm of the macrocosm, which means that we are in symbiosis with all other living things. You know the word symbiosis, symbiotic. It's defined as cooperation, interdependence, relationship, integrity. We are in relationship and interdependence with everything on this planet. Human, plants, everything. We are in symbiosis with it. Integrity is incredibly important to how we live our lives. Integrity is making sure our actions are consistently in harmony with our principles, our values, and our beliefs. When I am aware of my principles, the guides that I live by, and my values, what I value and don't value in this life, the goals that I set, when I am aware of those, in order to be in integrity, I have to live those. I have to act on those, because my actions are what creates my integrity. Because the word integrity just means integrated. I have integrated all of what I believe, all of what I think, all of what I speak, and how I act with the same set of values that I have chosen. So we have to be in integrity. One of the ways we have to be in integrity is we have to keep our promises. Being in integrity means we have to build trust. If you want to have a solid relationship, it has to be built on trust. We don't have a solid relationship without trust. And once the trust is broken, to get it back and have a good relationship, very difficult. So when we say we have certain beliefs, and we live by certain principles, and we live by certain values, then the actions that we take must also match those beliefs and those values. When our goals and our beliefs and our words and our actions are all the same, we are living from our integrity. As I'm writing this talk today, these words just flowed out of me onto the page, so forgive me if I offend anybody. But as I was writing this, I said, we have an alarming part of the people in our world right now that do not live from integrity. It's especially true in our government. Their words, their goals, their beliefs and principles are all different from the actions that they're taking. Have you noticed that? They aren't focused on being in integrity and living from honesty and caring for the people who voted them into office. They're focused on personal power and personal wealth. That's more important to them right now than doing what they promised and said they would do to the people who voted them in. Sadly, we've watched over time our world become entrenched in the belief that profit, not moral responsibility, is the bottom line. We've lost our way. Now, it might make a little sense if we lived in a world of scarcity, but those of you who come here and practice what Unity teaches knows we don't live in a world of scarcity. And so to live from these convoluted values makes no sense at all. We live in a very wealthy country. We have freedom. We have so many things that people have died for us to keep. And yet, we're behaving like there's great scarcity. The biggest part that, and again, forgive me guys, but this did just flow out of my fingers onto the keys before I could stop it, so I think maybe this might be something Spirit's asking me to say, I don't know. But I wrote, we have politicians and political parties that are totally out of integrity. And the sad thing is we are allowing it. We individually are allowing it. We think someone else will take care of it, or we think that if we watch the news, it's bad karma or vibes or whatever. And so we'd rather not notice what's going on. But if we don't call them out on their lack of integrity, it will continue. It's happened in other governments in history around the world, where everybody looked the other way. And then we had Nazi Germany and other places, because people said, it's not happening to me. You know, it's those people over there getting it. Doesn't work. If we don't do our part, and it's the moral intelligence. I'm going to go back to all of this. I haven't just gotten off of the subject. But if we don't participate in our own democracy, we will lose it. It will end. And I fear we're closer than we think. Now, the democracy we live in has never been perfect. It's all been an experiment. They call it an experiment. But it has worked, and it can work. It takes us all. Because think about it, we have the freedom and the wealth in this country like no other country in the world. We have to not only honor what we have, but to keep it. We've had a government of people in our past who, leaders from time to time, were out of integrity. I could name a few, but you know who they are. But there was always other people in the government who was a majority that overruled them and said, no, we're not going to tolerate your out of integrity, your lack of integrity, and didn't allow these people who were doing wrong things, didn't allow them to continue to serve in a leadership role. Those people stood up for truth and for morals, and order was restored. We need that again, guys. We need to make our voices heard and be a part of keeping this freedom that so many men have lost their lives to keep us free over the years. We don't have many people right now who are speaking up. Very few politicians are speaking up and holding our leaders to high standards. The moral intelligence that I'm talking about this morning. And in that vein of moral intelligence and moral responsibility means we have to take personal responsibility for our personal choices, for admitting our mistakes, again, in our relationships, and for being responsible for serving others in need when it's necessary. That's part of our golden rule. Being morally responsible means having compassion, means caring for others, means forgiveness of ourselves and others. We've all fallen short. That's because we're human. We need to forgive ourselves, ask forgiveness of others, forgive others, and move on. If you don't do the forgiveness work, you're carrying all that guilt around like a big old bag of bricks. You ever tried to carry a bag of bricks around with you? It's mighty tiresome. A lot of what we can do is, again, remind ourselves of that one simple thing by the golden rule. We all have to remember that the virtues of living our lives in impeccable ways will make a difference in our own success. And that's really what I wanted to get at today. The important thing about the law of divine compensation is that it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing in the world, when we're living from our highest values and our highest standards in impeccable ways, it will make a difference in your own success. It will. And that's the big point I want to make today. Integrity is vital to success in all our relationships, in our work, in our business, in every way. And every time we live in an impeccable way, other people get it, they see it, and you are creating trust and you're creating loyalty. There's some companies, some of you guys who keep all this stuff like this probably know who the companies are, but there's some companies in our United States right now that understand this. And they have built morally intelligent organizations. And they have created a culture infused with the values and the members consistently acting in alignment with the company's high values. And by the way, they are the most successful companies in the United States. It works for all of us. It works for all of us. And part of what I want to talk about today, I'm going to switch it a little bit, but it's still the same subject. I want to talk a little bit about love. To want love or believe in the power of love is wonderful. But the spiritual test that brings results in the place where we decide whether or not to act on love, that's where the rubber meets the road. I can want love, but I have to be the love I want to see. I have to act that out. That's so important to understand. When I say I want more love in my life, the only way I'm going to get more love in my life is to be that love. Putting love first is not a sacrifice. I think we've been taught that. I think sometimes in the romantic stories, love is created with sacrifice. That's not the truth. You are here on this earth because your whole purpose is love. It can't go wrong when you live from love. That's who you were created to be and how you were created to show up every day in your life, no matter what other people are doing or not doing. Living from this one principle will create unlimited possibilities and unlimited opportunities for your success. Remember, what we teach in unity, what we give out comes back. That's the law. Principle of fair exchange gives love to both giver and receiver. Now, sometimes you don't get the love back from who you gave it to, but you have to understand that's perfectly okay because you will get it back. This is the divine compensation of the universe. There's another thing I want to talk about love. This is very important. Love always gives a loving response. But what we need to learn is sometimes the loving response needs to be no. You know why? Because we're also supposed to love ourselves. If I don't love myself, you will never know how to love me, because I teach you how to love me. So sometimes the most loving response we have is no, because we have to love ourselves. But as we follow that path of love, we know it leads to trust, it leads to deeper relationships, and therefore it leads to a greater probability of further good in our lives. Our internal abundance is ultimately the source of our external abundance. Our internal abundance is ultimately the source of our external abundance. And again, that's because what we think and believe and how we act is what we put out into this quantum field. So we can kind of know what's going on in here is going to show up out here. And it is called the divine law of compensation. It's a spiritual compensation. It has nothing to do with other human beings. It's the natural working of the universe, and it's up to each one of us to rid our minds of any thoughts that block our love and our good. Unloving thoughts and living from greed and self-aggrandizement are in direct opposition to the workings of the law of divine compensation. When we think or say something negative, even if we believe that at the moment, I don't really believe what I'm saying, that I'm kind of being negative. You never have done that? It's like, I know I shouldn't be saying this, but I'll say it anyway kind of thing. That thought still carries negative energy. You just put some negative energy out into the universe. And those unloving thoughts and those self-serving ideas are a huge deterrent to our success. The reason for that is they are in opposition to our moral compass. We were born with a moral compass. We know what's right and wrong. And yet we get adulterated as we grow, and we get too involved in human foibles and ideas. And we can find ourselves in opposition to our true nature. That's what we came here to learn as humans. Is that we are both human and divine, and that the divine of us is the love that we were born to be. So we have to watch our negative thoughts, our negative beliefs, not only about others, but about ourselves. How many times do you talk badly about yourself, to yourself? Oh, I'm so stupid. You've done that, right? We've all done that. Stop it. I have two things to say about that. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Don't talk negatively to yourself or about yourself. Don't have any negative beliefs about yourself. Remind yourself who you are as a perfect child of a loving God. When we have these negative beliefs and these negative thoughts, again, we're just being human. That's who we are. We're humans. But when we have these, we're forgetting who we are. We're forgetting that we're more than human. We're forgetting that there's a spiritual self of us. That's where our power lies. And that's the place we want to tap into as often as we can make ourselves remember to be that spiritual person. I mean, we have to be human. We're living in our human skin on a human plane. But that does not have to be what rules our life. The spiritual of us is the power. And you've heard me say this again and again. So when we have beliefs that other people are not worthy, that we're justified to hold negative thoughts about them, or hold them down, or hold them back from equality, we're seeing some of that in our world these days. That merely means that we believe in separation. And we know there is no separation. We are all one. Made of the same stardust by the same creator. We're all one. There is no inequality. We are all brothers and sisters. And I make this point because as long as we believe we're separate, we're going to be comparing ourselves to other people, and we're going to be holding ourselves back. You see, when we do these things, we're not hurting them. we're hurting us. We're hurting ourselves back from our own success when we are treating others as less than we. And again, I'm going to quote Jesus. He said, "What you do to the least of these, you do to me." So remember, you can't do it to someone else without doing it to yourself. Very important to remember. When I hold on to anger, when I hold on to prejudice, I'm only hurting me. I'm not hurting the other person. Half the time they don't even know I'm angry. The other half the time they don't even care. I'm hurting me. So we have to let that go. If you want to know more about this, there's a wonderful book. I've used it for years. I highly recommend it. I think we have a copy or two in the back, I believe. It's called The Divine Law of Compensation. That's how the universe works. It's written by Marianne Williamson. And she says this in the book. This is a quote. "The universe responds fully to that old-fashioned idea called doing the right thing." She says, once we recognize the law of cause and effect as the basic building block of our universe, once we recognize the law of cause and effect, karma, whatever you want to call it, as the basic building block of our universe, we will begin to act righteously, and the word righteously just means right, rightly. We'll do the right thing. Not more righteous than somebody else, but we will just live right thinking and right acting. And we'll do it, she says, for our own sake. You won't do it because I'm standing up here telling you to do it. You'll do it and you'll see how it changes your life, and you'll do it for your own sake. She says, we realize integrity is in our own self-interest. Once we begin to live that place of integrity where we are so clear about who we are and what we choose and live from that, it's in our own self-interest. We begin to live from our highest integrity, not because we believe we should, but because we want to. We cross that threshold of I'm doing this because I know I should. No, we do it because we want to. We begin to believe and to realize that the darkness in our life is called forth by our fear. And we wish to be rid of that fear. So the moment we enter into that light of our spiritual reality, we move out of that humanness of us that is subject to fear and living from fear, and we move into that next higher realm that we call our spiritual reality. We rise above our ego, and the darkness disappears. Every thought we think, we create or block a miracle. Every thought we think, we either create a miracle or we block a miracle. From miracle-mindedness, miracles will flow forth naturally. From miracle-mindedness, miracles will flow forth naturally. This one's really important, guys, because this is one of the ones that this little sentence is very powerful. It is not our circumstances, but rather our thoughts about our circumstances that determine our power to transform our circumstances. Do you get it? It's not about what's going on. It's what we think about what's going on. We can be in fear of it, or we can know we can create a miracle from it. Our thoughts about our circumstances are what will determine our power to transform them. Our capacity to think differently than we have been is the miracle worker's edge. In spirit, there is no lack. You are not lacking because your circumstances are. You are bigger than that. You are higher than that. You are more powerful than that. Your immutable truth, the immutable truth about who you really are, is that you are an unlimited spiritual being. You have no limits when you move into that place of knowing the spiritual power that you have, which is so much greater than our human limitations. So we ask ourselves today, are we blaming or blessing our situation? Are we opening our mind to the possibility of miracles? How many of you open your mind every morning when you get out of bed to the possibility of miracles? It's a great way to start your day. The universe is ready to begin again in any instance, and the laws of time and space are more malleable than you might think. So I'm going to leave you with these thoughts today, folks. As a child of God, you are loved, and you cannot be victimized by someone else. You are a child of God. The universe knows if you were hurt, and it's already on the case to make it right, whatever was wrong. And that's what I said earlier. It doesn't matter if someone does us wrong. And we're living from that purity that we know. The universe will make it right for us in a way that we would have never expected. Have any of you experienced that before in your lives? Yeah. So, living from moral intelligence is definitely the field of miracles. Double S. Let's take all of this now into a time of contemplation and meditation about what we've talked about here today and how it might work in your own life right now. We all have problems from time to time. We're all grappling with something. It's because we're here and Earth is a school. So I would invite you to take a few deep breaths and lay things aside if you're comfortable doing that. Close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. And let's just move into a time of reflection and think about what's been said here today and how it might serve you. Whatever is a circumstance in your life right now. We all have them. And just breathe into that. Know that for most of us at any given time, the universe has blessed us with some problem to solve. Because this is our school. This is our Earth school. So whatever you may be grappling with right now, it may be a relationship, it may be financial, it may be health, whatever it may be, just know that you're not about that circumstance. You're greater than that circumstance. That what we think about that circumstance determines our power to transform it. So I'm going to leave you in the silence for a few minutes as you think about what it is that you would like to see miracles happen in your life. And remember, you have that unlimited possibility as a spiritual being to create a miracle out of whatever the problem is. as you contemplate these circumstances that you would like to change, just remember the moral intelligence, the ability to live from our purest, integrous self. Remind ourselves that that moral intelligence is definitely the field for miracles to show up. And that as we develop that moral intelligence, that integrity, that decency, as we begin to live from that because we choose it, we do know miracles will begin to happen. And so we use that as our mantra, reminding ourselves that who we are and how we show up will create miracles in our lives. And for this we are grateful. And so it is. Amen.